And so thank you so much, John, for that. I want to quickly go to Grace, So basically, Grace, please get ready. So Grace, as I said, for those of you who have attended her talk in person about, I think it's about 2 years ago, and she had, and also last year, yeah, right when we are in the midst of COVID as well. So Grace leads the talent acquisition and hiring activities across Asia. And in fact, I would say global as well with Bowers and Wilkins. She's not new to the Singapore scene, but what's interesting about her, I know Grace personally as well. She really eats, sleep and breathe talent in terms of building the talent pipeline. She has lived and worked in UK, Hong Kong, and she has also worked in China as well. So, world traveler, but you can see that I would say Grace is really like a quiet leader. Every time when she opened her mouth, it's like, wow, nuggets of gold all come out. Really, I've worked with her many years. I know she has held, a lot of senior HR positions like Samsung and also Flextronics. She was also in Invensys and ABB Singapore. And one thing I like, which is the final thing I'll say, is that while she is very much, she's able to sit at the management table and talk about business and all that and trends and strategy. But what I like about her is that she's also a seasoned counselor, qualified therapist in cognitive behavioral therapy, which I talk a lot in my workshops. And also she's appointed as a master mediator since 1999, I think, and she's been commissioned to help with some mediation cases. As you know, Singapore has been appointed as a country to handle a lot of mediation cases. She's been formally appointed by CMC, Ministry of Law as well. So over to you, Grace, please walk us through your very interesting experience on the search front.
Thank you, Eileen. Hello, everyone.
Yes. Yeah,
I can share now.
Right? Yes, please. Yes, please. Please share. Okay. All right.
Can you see it now, Eileen?
Okay, I'm not seeing it yet.
Strange. Let me try again.
Yeah. I think we've released the yeah. Can you click on the share screen again?
Yeah, I'm trying to do that again.
Okay. If not, then you go to the PowerPoint and then do an exit.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let me see if I've got your deck out here. I've got your deck. If you want me to walk through, put your deck up.
Let me try again to
one more
see
time,
what
yeah?
happens.
Okay, all right. You try one more time. If not, then I would put your deck up. Okay. That don't seem to be coming on.
Yeah, it's strange. Okay. I'm not sure why.
All right. You want me to just share?
Yes, I see something.
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Actually shared for her.
Oh, you did? Oh, strange.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why it happened. Okay, maybe I'll use yours then, just in case.
Yeah. How's about this? Okay, just let me know. I'll just move the slides on. Yeah.
Great, perfect. Well, good afternoon, everyone, again, and thank you for this opportunity to share. Let me go through what I would want to do today. Let me just start by saying that I'm a career coach, so I do quite a lot of coaching. I do on average more than 20 coaching every month, and have been helping a number of job holders and job seekers to get jobs, obviously, and to upskill. So one of the programs that I'm working on with Skills Future is the advanced manufacturing course, and we are helping to place candidates, within 8 weeks to a company, whether it is in the field of precision engineering, semiconductor, or medical technology, or life sciences. So that's what I do most of my days. And I'm also a regional recruiter with Bowers and Wilkins.
Okay, Grace, I think your camera is off. Can you put it on? Yeah.
Can you hear me? Can you see me now?
Okay, thanks, Anthony. All right.
Is it okay now?
Yep, we can see you.
Okay, good. Okay, let's move to the quick poll because the topic is on whether candidates should collaborate with recruiters. So I'd like to hear from your point of view whether it's yes or no.
Yeah. So I've just launched the poll. All right. I think everybody can see the poll. Should candidate collaborate with recruiters, right? Wait, let me hold on. Let me just stop share first. Yeah. Okay, we've got, okay, half of the crowd has already voted. All right. I think we have a few more, just a few more votes, and then we can share the results. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna close the poll soon. Yeah, because the votes have stopped coming in. So let me just share the results. Here's what you see on screen.
Right. So majority is yes, right? Almost 97%, 57 people say yes. And I would totally agree with you. And so let's look at what we mean by collaborating with recruiters.
Okay, yep, let's do that.
Okay, so my next page, right. So let's look at what we mean by that. So essentially, when we collaborate with recruiters, we are looking at whether it is internal recruiter, which is in-house recruiter, or we're talking about recruiters with an agent or with RPO. But definitely it's a resounding yes, particularly with internal recruiter, because most recruiters, as Sean rightly mentioned, we hold about 20 jobs typically at any point in time. And therefore, when we approach the candidate, we are really definitely keen to, to talk to the candidate and to see how we can find a job match there. And of course, with external recruiters, it's equally important to stay connected. However, I would recommend that we be a bit more selective there. Okay, thanks, Eileen. So my next page is on the difference between agency recruiters and in-house recruiters. Let's take a quick look at in-house recruiters, and Sean has already covered pretty comprehensively. So typically an in-house recruiter covers the internal hiring needs of a single company, and they hire for specific company culture. I remember earlier on in the chat group, a lot of people talk about the culture fit, which I think is very important because it has to align with your own personal values. Often hire permanent staff, although I must say that with this gig economy, a lot of contract staff are being hired by the in-house recruiters too. And Sean can correct me if I'm not correct there. Often have expertise in hiring for specific roles because they would know the company very well, they will know the roles very well, they are working extensively with the hiring manager and understand the job specs, although I must say that job specs do vary from time to time because of the changes that's happening around us. So that's the in-house recruiter that we resoundingly agree that we must connect with. And then there's the agency recruiters. And typically the agency recruiters, they're working with multiple clients. I mean, they could be working in a similar sector, but multiple clients. And it's important to stay connected to because, your resume can go into a very robust data bank to match you to different positions that we hire across industries sometimes, so they might not be just concentrating, for example, on the finance sector or technology in the IT world, but they also do different across industries. Often hire short-term staff for specific projects, and that's quite true. They typically look at some of the star people that are very good for specific projects, so they hire in that respect. And depending on their agency specialty, staffing recruiters can also specialize in hiring for specific roles. So for example, they are particularly good in engineering role, but within engineering, there's also different type of roles, whether they are within the production, planning, the mechanical engineer, or whether they are a designer that they do quite a bit of design work for industrial applications and so on. Now, most companies actually apply RPO now instead of just doing an agency recruiters. So you'll find that the recruiters actually could be with an RPO, and RPO cover the entire range from a candidate search all the way to onboarding. So they actually look at the search, and they will also screen the candidate and make sure that they are also in there. I mentioned earlier on in a database that's very robust. They will schedule interview, be part of the selection process, and of course the offer stage as well. Because believe me, the hardest thing is not to source for a candidate. The hardest thing is to make sure that the person get on board, because there will still be last minute withdrawal along the way. So that's the difference between agency recruiters and in-house recruiters. And I think we will need to stay connected, definitely, all the time. So we will go into a bit more detail later on how we select the agent. Next, please, Eileen. Okay, so the next page, we look at the effectiveness. So earlier on, we talked about the KPI of a recruiter. Look at this particular chart here. It's a survey done recently by a reputable headhunter employment agent. And they found that on average per sourcing channel, looking at how effective it is, i.e. how many applications are required to hire one person. Of course, the lower the better. And Sean mentioned talent relationship is the most important, because for 2.14 applications, if you will hire the person, versus, for example, social media, 149.8. So it is important that the recruiter stay very connected with the candidate, and also to look at, staying connected along the way. Next page, please. Right, so I just want to mention that IT jobs is, we all know, hottest property currently, whether you are a data scientist or otherwise, it's always about IT. And greater than 70% of IT professionals are not actively looking. However, 50% stay open to new opportunity, even though they're not actively looking. My point here is, it's important to stay connected. It's, everyone will stay connected, even though they are not actively looking for a role. And for LinkedIn, we know already that it is a very important source, 700 million users around the world. Let's do a quick poll on what percentage of entire population in Singapore actually use LinkedIn.
It's on, guys. So give us your guess. Is it less than 20%, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80, or above 80% are residing in Singapore? What do you think? Some might do I don't know. It's just a guess, right? Based on population. Let's see. Okay, we've got a very good 71% of you have already voted. I'm going to end the poll and share the results with everyone. You should be able to see this on screen. Yep. Okay. Here
right.
you go.
Okay, spot on. Between 40 to 60% exactly, it is 44.3%, which is 2.7 million people in Singapore on LinkedIn. So a pretty high number. Okay, next page, please. So the next I want to talk about is the recruitment agency. It's important for you to rank the relevance and the reputation of the agent for you to connect. Earlier on, we said that we need to stay connected. However, you need to be selective when it comes to an external agent. So these are some examples. Of course, they also do across industry. However, typically, these are what we are looking for. For Kelly Services, they do a lot of work on banking, healthcare, sales, IT, and engineering. Adecco, similarly, and they also do HR, manufacturing, and logistics. GMP Group, they do quite a bit on chemical, oil, and gas. Randstad, life sciences, construction, and real estate. And for JAC recruitment, some of you who have worked for Japanese and Korean companies, for example, we do use quite a lot of JAC recruitment, particularly if we're looking for candidate with that specific language capability. And of course, we use top headhunters for very senior leadership role. However, most companies will only do that kind of headhunting for niche position because it is very, very costly. And so we're talking about people like Conferry, Egon Sander, Hendricks and Struggles, and so on. So while you look at the relevance and the reputation of agent, you can then decide on whether to, who to stay connected more closely with, whether it's more in line with your field of work and your interests. Okay, next please. So I'm going to now share with you what are some of the common mistakes that we typically make. One, we respond to fake job postings. Earlier on, someone posted in the chat group, there are fake job postings, so we need to be very careful. How do we know it's fake? Well, if it appears every week or sometimes even every other day, you know that something is strange about it. I would always advise that when there is a job posting, you search the company or the sector and link back to the career website of the company. Every company looks a lot extensively on employment branding, so we don't miss a chance to do employment branding opportunity. But if you notice that it's empty, then you might smell, something fishy there. Errors is another red flag. Typically we do not send a posting that are full of errors or even with any error. So that might be a red flag to you if you spotted a number of errors in a job posting. Use reputable job boards. We will talk a little bit more about the job boards, and also get insights, example from Indeed and Glassdoor. It really tells you a lot about the company, particularly if you are very particular about the job culture, or rather the company culture, see how it fits into your own value system. So go into some of these job boards and get insights there. Next, please. Okay, these are some of the job boards. Sorry, it's a bit of a busy slide here, but hopefully it will help you look at which are the relevant job boards. So Job Street for professional, mainly for professional, there are 11 million job seekers around the world with 80,000 corporate customers on this particular job board. So that's Job Street. Job Central is for junior to mid-level, and they're very well connected with the Education Institute as well. So invariably, you will have heard of them even as an undergraduate. LinkedIn, I think we already said enough about that, 700 million users. My Careers Future, I'd like to talk a little bit about that later on in my presentation. This is a national portal that we need to look at and see how we can, how the government can help Singaporeans find jobs here. Monster is a leading global job board. I think most people are familiar with it. And then there's Indeed with 250 million unique visitors every month. Then there's Nuvo. This is now known as talent.com. There it's represented in 75 countries with 30 million jobs there. And there's startup jobs. I know that some of us like to work in a startup environment, and so startup jobs will be a good job portal that might interest you. And then, of course, for the younger groups, there's the Intern SG for internship. Here we look at how we place graduates within companies. And then there's cult jobs. This is not a cult, but this is a job board that typically cater for creative jobs. So if you're looking for jobs in design, in arts, in content, PR, and marketing, this will be the place for you. Then there's Glassdoor. Of course, earlier on, I mentioned that Glassdoor is very important because this is the place where you can actually find and hear a lot of information about the company. And increasingly, it's gotten popularity as a job board as well. Next page, please. Right, so what do we need to do? One, we must stay professional. We can always stay professional by, the way we respond. We don't need to get personal about it. However, I must say that a lot of us as recruiter, we always feel that candidates are not very personable. It can be very mechanical, and we don't want that section to be overly mechanical. So I would maintain that you stay professional. For example, maintain eye contact when you're on Zoom, staying connected and so on. Never complain to the recruiter about your current or previous company or boss. You never know where it gets. This kind of information is best to keep it confidential and not to really, it's not a place for you to vent. Never sound desperate. I have candidates who say, I'll take any job to get out of my current situation. Never sound desperate. I think it doesn't give a very professional image. Black hole, I hear a lot of candidates say, it's like going into a black hole. You write to them, you respond, you never get any response back. But I would advise, don't give, if you have not heard back. It doesn't mean that the recruiter has not reviewed your resume. It's just that the volume is overwhelming, especially now. Get your network to help. Sean mentioned earlier on quite a bit on the networking, and I can't agree more. It is so important to network. The people that I coach every day, when they are within the program that they are in to upskill, they actually are placed within a network group, and they have shared with me how effective the network has. There's bound to be someone who knows someone who can connect you. And frankly, how do you bypass that process of getting shortlisted is sometimes through who you know as well. Don't cancel interview last minute. It's totally unprofessional or seemed hard to reach. You might be very, very busy, but don't ever cancel interview last minute would be my advice. Next, please. So how do you reach out to recruiters? I came across this article, which I thought was very insightful. So Andrew Seaman is the editor of LinkedIn, and Rosie McCarthy is the CEO of Get Hired. And they said that it's important to get to the point, whenever you ask a question or connect with them, just get to the point. Do not beat around the bush. Sometimes we get long message, and there's only 2 seconds to go through it before we close the message. So get to the point, ask a question and be very specific. For example, if the job ad asks for a specific software knowledge or programming knowledge, you can ask whether what you have would be sufficient to substitute. Those are very specific questions. Or if they ask for very, very specific industry experience and you don't have it and you want to ask a question to see if what you have experienced in the past, in your past life is relevant, then those will be specific questions. Don't take unanswered message personally. It's never personal. I can guarantee you that. It's nothing, even if you don't get an answer, it's never personal. Consider reaching out to others at the company. Very true, network, talk to people who have worked in the company, and you really find a lot of connection there and a lot of information that you need to know that will prepare you well in advance for the interview. So I read last week, a recruiter shared the best candidates message. He actually said that, of all messages, this is the best I have ever come across. And he said there are 3 points in this candidate's message that he would not, immediately close. He would just take time to read it. And the first is the candidate know the company and industry. That means that the person has actually done their research and have talked to people about the company and the sector. They have done their research on the positions, matching your skill set. One thing I would always recommend is to do a SWOT, an SWOT, matching your job skill with that of the job description. And you'll find, your strength or what you're lacking and what are the opportunity and the threat. That will help you do a lot more research before you go for the interview, and have a clear message together with your resume. So your cover letter is critical. Yes, you might need to tweak your resume depending on the job, but the most important is still the cover letter. A few bullet points onto why your specific experience is relevant to what we are looking for as a recruiter. Next, please. So there are basic protocols that recruiters need to observe, and I need Eileen to do a quick poll now on your expectation, or rather, if you can type into your chat group. So what are your expectations of a recruiter?
Okay. All right. So guys, just type into the chat, what do you expect from the recruiter? When a recruiter calls you, what do you immediately expect from them? All right. Let's see. Oh, Anthony says all of the above. He wants everything, basically.
Wants everything. Good.
He wants everything. Okay. I think Tiam Chai said updates and feedback.
Yeah.
Hannah says honesty and frankness, being very open, transparent on what they're looking for. And if they think they are a good match, job seekers are a good match, transparency, good job opportunities, suitable jobs. That's what Julie said. Lei Hun said more about the job, right? They want the recruiters to represent the job better. Ed says, no lah, not overselling, right? Responsiveness is what Pengate mentioned. Anthony said it's a partnership win-win. That's what he's expecting from a recruiter. So mutualization, yes, very good. How to tailor resume to push for the interview. Okay, that's what Tia Chuan mentioned. And then I think there's a question like, can a recruiter inform the candidate who else, how many other candidates are applying for that role? That's the question. She's hoping that the recruiter will tell them. And then be truthful in answering questions, no hiding, no shielding. Don't pull the wool over people's eyes. Lydia said, good understanding of the JD that he's positioning. Of course. Yep.
Absolutely. No, those are all very, very good comments indeed. So let's go through it. So I think it is important that a recruiter should let you know the opening and figure out if you are the best fit. It is very important. If you are best fit, the recruiter will need to advise you on that. And the recruiter should not skew your resume or oversell. Sometimes they are so anxious to push it forward that they will oversell, and that's not good, because in case you don't get that specific job, you want to make sure that it is a true resume that's on the database. Sometimes the recruiter might tailor your resume to push for an interview, as I mentioned earlier. So that's not a very good way of, that's not particularly professional. Salary offer, the recruiter might make a suggestion, but it is important for you to do your own research. And now you can actually go on, to Google the salary offer of even the competitors' salary range. So do your own research and talk to people. Check the recruiter's background and industry. That's important because the recruiter might not have that specific sector's experience, and so they might not speak the same lingo. So it's important that you check that person's background too. Their career movement. I know that recruiters jump ship very often, so you can actually see their career movement. And then, as you rightly said, responsiveness. I think that's the least a recruiter should do. Always be responsive and not to keep the candidate waiting. And that really demonstrates how professional that recruiter is or not.
Okay.
Great, thanks. So I'd like to now move on to the last bit of my presentation, which is on your right as a candidate in the selection process. So first and foremost, every recruiter and employer must be guided by the principles that set out by the Ministry of Manpower, which is we should hire based on skills, experience, and the ability to perform the job. And regardless of age, I know there are quite a number of candidates who always ask, is age against me? Race, gender, religion, marital status, and family responsibility or disability. So those are your rights in the selection process. The employer as well as the recruiter must be guided by these principles. And then I want to talk a bit about My Careers Future. It's a very good national portal that has been launched. And so if you go to the next page, please. So it was launched in November 2020 by WSG, by TAFEP, which is Tripartite Alliance for Fair and Progressive Employment Practices, and by MOM. It was rolled out as a national jobs portal, and there are 3 particular features in this portal, which set a new standard for other job portals to follow. And the aim is to strengthen the progressive hiring practices among employers and to give candidates a fair chance in the role. So let's look at these 3 features. Next page. So first, it is about prompting employees to adhere to TGFEP, which is Tripartite Guidelines on Fair Employment Practices for their job advertisement. This means that employer and the recruiter must be fair and recruit based on merit, respect the employee or the candidate, provide fair opportunities, reward fairly, and comply with labor laws. That's the first principle that's set out in this job portal. The second is to have better guidance for employers in crafting out a neutral job ads. So we actually use social listening technology to make sure that employers do not put in discriminatory terms. And once we spotted that, it will be flagged to the employer immediately for correction. And the third is to make it easier to report possible discrimination. So you can always make a report once you spot, any discrimination there through My Careers Future. Okay. Next is on Pdpa. I think most people are familiar with Pdpa by now. So it was actually introduced in 2013 to protect personal data, your data, for collection, for usage, and for disclosure, and make sure that everyone knows it is your right to ensure that your data is only collected, used, or disclosed with your permission. No data can be released without your permission. Now, next page, please. I'm going to ask a few questions to see your response. So can the company transfer personal data to another country, example, to the HQ or any part of the same company?
Very good question. Yeah. Yes or no, guys? Just put in the chat. Wow, Julie is quite strong here. She said, of course not.
Sorry, what did Julie say?
No, she said, of course not. No,
Okay, okay.
I think you got a lot of no's here. Yeah, everybody, Emerald says no, Cassie says no, Kelvin says no. Oh,
Okay.
Tian Ru says depends with a question mark.
Okay, I'll take that up with, on the word depends. I tend to agree that it depends. Now, if the country that your data has been sent to with the same company apply the same standard that we do in Singapore, then the answer is yes. So it really depends on whether they practice the same standard as we do in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
The next question is, can the recruiter forward your medical conditions to the potential employer?
Geneva says no. That was a very quick one. Yam Chai says no. Emerald,
Okay.
no. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, Chen Ru also says no.
Right. So medical conditions is a very private and confidential data or detail. It's definitely not to be forwarded unless you give the permission to the recruiter to forward that. For example, if you're about to get an offer, then I think well, you need to go for medical checkup anyway, and it is important for you to flag your medical conditions if it is something that you want your employer to know beforehand.
Yeah.
Next question, how long will my personal data be retained by the recruiter?
Another good question. Doreen says at least 5 years. Chen Ru says 5 years. And anyone else? Any more guesses? Seems to be. Geneva says 7. Is it the company law thingy? Corporate law is 7 years, right?
Yes, for your personal data, actually, the minute the recruiter is done with your application, they should not hold your data anymore, unless there's another role that is happening and the recruiter has your permission for them to keep your data on record. If you give your consent, then they have the right to do that. Otherwise, they should really destroy it, as soon as an application is done.
Yep, that's the right answer.
My last question, can I ask how my data will impact my job application?
Personal data, right?
Yeah.
Or CV and all that, the whole shebang.
Your personal data, yeah.
Personal data, okay.
Which is probably in your resume. Any answer to that?
Any answer? How will my personal data or personal bio affect my job application? Okay, Doreen says definitely will. Julie says not really. Okay, so we've got 2 answers there. What's your take, Grace?
Right. So my suggestion is for evaluative purposes, Pdpa does not govern that. So in other words, the employer do not have to review how your data will impact their evaluation to your application.
Yeah, I think there's a lot inference from there, right? I think I've heard feedback, from yesterday's workshop also. Someone was saying sometimes as a job applicant, when you look at the majority of employees on the floor, when you go in for interview and you see the employees on the floor, I mean my infamous story, which is I'm the only one wearing shoulder pads. So I kind of know which age group I belong to and the group that I'm gonna join. So what do? I went to a restroom and just rip out all my shoulder pads. Yeah, but yeah. So I don't think we can be so explicit to say that, but it's implicit. It's all implied.
Right. So again, for evaluative purposes, then we do not, the employer do not need to review. So my last 2 slide is, if you don't remember a single word I said in the last 30 minutes, no problem. Just remember this for me. Do it for my sake. Remember that you must have a growth mindset. Sean emphasized, extensively in his presentation about, being positive, staying positive. And I know many of you will ask how to, if I've been rejected, on numerous occasions, how do I stay positive? I'll share examples with you later on. And but really, self-belief is the most important. Never think or disbelieve yourself. Always believe in what you have achieved so far. You've done it in the past. There's no reason why you can't do it again. It just takes time. Just be patient, but put in effort. Always, don't give up on the effort part, because that's really going to bring you someplace. And all you need is just one job offer. Always maintain that growth mindset. So I'm going to share with you the next page on what new mindset and new result means. Now, I think someone mentioned in the chat group earlier on, it's always important to stay upgraded and upskill. And it's so important, whether you are a job holder or job seeker, it is so important to upskill. I give you an example of a job holder that I talked to a couple of weeks ago. He is holding a very, very good job with a good multinational. And he asked me whether he should really give up his job to do a full-time study. And I asked him why. I mean, the company has invested so much in you and you're doing very well. Why are you thinking that? And he said, Grace, I will be good for the next 2 years, but I can't see myself in the next 5 or 10 years, without upskilling. So he was pretty afraid, because he said that he definitely know the gaps that need to be filled, in his current role and in his current job. But really, there's a lot of ways to upskill without giving up your job too. So I'll share with you some of this now. If you look at this upskill part, in November 2020, the Singapore Business Federation survey shows that 52% of the employer flagged that manpower cost is a key challenge for them. And 40% say job applicants lack the soft skill. So what kind of soft skill are we talking about here? Well, LinkedIn 2020 survey showed these as the top 5 soft skills: creativity, persuasion, collaboration, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. So EQ continues to be critical, and particularly with empathy. And think about it. I mean, everything we do is virtual. Lots of the members that work with you, you probably will never see them again, because they've gone back to their home country, their hometown, but they still hold the same role. And how do you then connect it with a team? How do you stay motivated? And how do you motivate each other? You need to be very creative. You need to be very persuasive. You need to collaborate and adapt, because it could be different culture, different environment. And how do you do that? With empathy, obviously, being able to really see the other person's point of view. Whatever you do, think of the impact of the other person. So those are things that employers expect. And in fact, we do apply algorithm to look at an employee's reaction or a candidate reaction during a Zoom meeting, for example. So you need to be very aware of that, and to make sure that you invest in those soft skills. And of course, it's not just the soft skill. We're also talking about the professional skill. Earlier on, I mentioned to you that I'm part of this advanced manufacturing group, and it's really interesting to see all the PMETs, so very excited with the program, because each module along the way you get certified. So for example, a project manager who was used to a very sequential, structural way of doing project management is now a Scrum Master. And so we provide that certification, and they use the Agile framework to apply a more holistic approach. And those are things that, you know, you need to update on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, so that you can share during your interview, so that you're not standing still. You are actually upgrading yourself, and you are abreast of what is happening, you know, externally. So that's just an example. Or you can actually learn about blockchain within a program that you upskill in. You know, why blockchain? Well, we talk a lot about data analytics, data science, and so you need to use blockchain to build on your data trust. You use blockchain for project management and so on. So my point really is upskilling is critical to staying employable. So always upskill. Don't think that you have nothing to do. In fact, you have no time because there's so much for you to do. And the other thing is to keep an option for always have a plan B in mind. And I'll give you an example of this. Some options will be going online to do online courses. Of course, we're all familiar with Coursera, Udemy, Khan Academy. These are the top online providers, course providers. And actually, if you go on Coursera, some of you might already know, but you know, it will give you an idea of the particular course that you enroll in. And at the finish or completion of the course, you'll see how many people have actually started a new career after completion of a particular course. And at the same time, they will show you the percentage of people who have received a pay increase and promotion at the end of, you know, of the career, sorry, at the end of the course that they have undertaken. And the other option could be to start a new business. And I came across this folks article by Neil Patel, and he actually gave an idea of the 5 places to get ideas to start your first or next business. So again, new mindset, provide new results. So make sure that you stay connected, stay, you know, lifetime learning is crucial. And it's not just to pass time, but it will give you a lot more opportunity and opening. I share with you my last word before I hand back over to Eileen. I was with one of my of the person that I coach in December, and she gave me the best Christmas present, you know, because she actually wrote to me just 2 days before Christmas to say, I got a job, you know, and it's even a permanent job. So what happened was she's a postgraduate and she has years of experience in her late 40s and touching 50, and she was a little concerned about her age, but she was not overly worried. She was very hopeful and very positive throughout, calm always, and know that she'll find a job. And indeed, you know, she was part of the program that I actually help. And at the same time, she was looking at the business plan already. She was going to start her vending machine business, you know, so she did all the preparation as well. But she got a job with an institute, and it was a full-time job. She was overjoyed. So the good thing is she is always, you know, she believed in herself and she put in a lot of effort to make it happen. So I maintain that, you know, if you continue to do that, you know, nature will collude with you to make you successful, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. With that, let me hand back over to Eileen.
Wow, so much to share in such, you know, a short space of time. Oh gosh.